Yo, 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 it's X,
It's your boy Chrizzo.
and welcome to the podcast, What's Out Media Group. Happy New Year, everybody. I think this is our first, bit of content for the new year. And today we have Zach Schwartz. I've known Zach for a while. Zach, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be here, and yeah, happy New Year to everyone.
Word, word, word. So, Zach, uh, tell the people what are you? How would you describe yourself? I call you an entrepreneur. I call you, a journalist. I call you a whole mix of a bunch of things. But what would you call yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I'm a writer. So I've like been a journalist. Am a journalist. Have been writing a lot of stuff for years, as I guess and even when I write music and stuff like that, I'm still just writing. So I think I'm a writer. Born and bred.
Got some good. You got some decent short films. I've seen. I've seen a lot of different cool things. So let's talk. Yeah, man. So I'll bring it back to launch house days. Back in the day, I was you could call me a middle school Michael Scott. That's the best way you could describe it. I was at this place called the Shaker Launch House from my seventh to eighth grade year. Just really, we kind of just our group kind of just BS'd around. We just hung out and learned different things from a lot of different entrepreneurs. And I think a year in, you show up. I think you're a senior or maybe a junior at like Solon High School, right?
You're in high school, yeah.
And you start what is it, the Lighthouse program. And uh, I mean, we have mutual friends because of Davion, and shout out Davion. But yeah, let's talk about the Lighthouse for a little bit because I think that is just such a unique thing. I don't think a lot of people have even experienced that. So yeah, could you give us a little insight on
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So Lighthouse Ohio was, or just let's call it Leap, because that's basically what it became. Was Leap was like a summer program that was ran out of the Shaker Launch House and funded by the Shaker Launch House and others, which I and a few others helped create. But at the time, it was like the nation's first. I mean, to this day, I mean, I haven't seen anything else. I think maybe people have tried to do it since. I think like Peter Thiel or whatever funded high school kids. But we were basically taking high school students and like giving them, I think it was like $1,000 or something like that, 500 or $1,000 to, start their business ideas. And I actually think, our friend Davion, that was when he started. Well, I think he's always been doing it, with or without us, he would have been doing it.
Of course.
But he was one of the people in that program. He was doing a video game company. There were people doing stuff like landscaping companies. There were like toy companies, software development companies, all run by high school students. And then we were kind of mentoring them. I know we did a lot of presentations on like how to public speak, how to write good emails. But it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of really good energy at the launch house around that time, and it was really dope to be a part of it.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Um, Very interesting. What were some of your favorite experiences there, and what did it teach you? I guess just in general, because I know I've learned a lot of like valuable lessons from my time at Launch House.
Yeah.
What are some things that you learned?
Um, I think it was sort of just being empowered. Like I don't, you probably know Bob Means, the director.
Yeah,
All those people. Todd Goldstein, Dark Caldwell, Shannon Leons. We were. I was like a 18-year-old kid, and they basically believed in my idea to start Leap and gave us the whole space. This whole awesome building. It had like a chicken coop out back. It had, just it was like a really dope co-working spaces when that wasn't a really big thing. And then I think we kind of transferred that down to the people who were only just 2 or 3 years younger than us, but it was all sort of just like people empowering kids who were empowering other kids. And I know that program continued even for a year after I left, maybe a year or two after I left. So I think that was probably the biggest thing, is just being like, oh wow, like you really can do it. You can kind of just believe in yourself and be an entrepreneur, or do your thing. Especially if there's like older people who are helping you. So that was probably the biggest inspiration. I think in terms of experiences, it was just being able to even meet people like yourself, like young entrepreneurs, creative people like Davion. And obviously a lot of us did stay in contact. So I think that was probably the best thing about it.
Yeah, and I think that's super cool because yeah, I was just gonna say I still keep in contact with a lot of guys who were part of the Leap program. Jacob, I can't think of his last name, but Jacob, he ran Vexum. I remember that was his
Yeah,
clothing group. He ended up being in a sport of mine. I just saw him in Boston, and like we just ran past each other. Like we were just kind of like walking by, and I'll go, Jacob, and he goes, Xavier, how are you? And then like it was like just a throwback. So like yeah, it's really cool. Or I remember the kid Isaiah who had the ties. Like I remember a lot of these guys. So
yeah,
yeah, very nice. So you went to Solon. How would you say? What was your experience at like going to Solon High School? Like, what was your upbringing like? How was that?
yeah. I mean, so I went to Solon in middle school. Before that, I was on the west side of Cleveland. But I mean, Solon was cool. It's like a suburban school. I guess the cool thing about us is that like Kid Cudi went there. He graduated from there. I think
Ooh.
Kid
yeah.
Cudi went to Shaker first.
And then he went to Solon. Yeah, yeah. So we kind of had that connection. I always kind of felt like because there would be kids from Shaker who would go to Solon, and um, you know, I think Solon in some ways was kind of like I don't know. What I do know is that Shaker Heights probably had this way more, but Solon did have a pretty good amount of diversity, like in every single way, like economic diversity,
Yeah.
racial diversity, whatever. Any national diversity. We had like Israeli people there and stuff like that. And I think that was a really good thing. I really appreciated that because you know I'd be going and like like there'd be like I'd go skateboard to my friend's house before school, and there'd be like crazy stuff going on, like parents would be like strung out or whatever, and I'd have to go like pick them up or whatever, and then we would go to like our friend's house who was just like super wealthy and had a pool and all that stuff. So it's kind of like just having those kind of like really disparate experiences in Solon, which you wouldn't really expect because Solon kind of has a reputation as like this really sheltered suburb, which it was for a lot of people. I think if you were like a risk-taking skateboarder kid, which I was at the time, it kind of opened up a little bit more. And I feel like as I went through life, those experiences kind of kept going because when I went to college, I still hung out with skateboarders. So I was just hanging out with kids in the city in Harlem and whatever, and then I'd have to go to college and hang out with whatever super rich kids. So
Yeah.
years and Hogwarts Zone and all that stuff.
So yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think that's the same kind of view that people have about Shaker. They don't really
Yeah.
understand. I got friends who, everything was government subsidized, right? And then we'd hang out, and then we go hang out with somebody whose dad was a CEO of some like crazy company. So it was just kind of like that's how it was. And I think that makes us. I'm not like tooting our own horns, but it makes us maneuverable in so many different areas because we've been in such a economically diverse area and such a like just a diverse area in general. Like I can like vibe with almost anybody,
Yeah, yeah. Same. And I also think, yeah, I mean, but y'all really went to the place that everyone wants to go. I meet people from around the country, and they have like fake IDs that say Shaker Heights High School because they just have heard of it because they think it's cool because of like Kid Cudi and MGK.
Damn.
Yeah, so you guys have so even in Solon we would have Asian kids come over from Shaker and they'd be like, man, like, Shaker's the real deal. Like I'm cool because I went to Shaker. We were like, all right, respect.
And that's crazy because when I got into high school, it kind of like reversed because now it's like, oh, these Solon kids. But then I ended up becoming good friends with people from Solon. So I was like, yo, this is like this. It kind of turned into some type of rivalry at some point. So.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess there's like a kind of a friendship now between Shaker and Solon people. So
Without a doubt. So where'd you end up going to college and the skating vibe? Like, have you always been a skater? Has that always been? Because I've always been into like trans world like type like BMX freaking skate like trans world. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been into that type of culture since I was like I can't even remember. But like when did you get into this?
I got into skating in eighth grade, and I think I don't know. I that was really like the first thing that I think. Before that, I was kind of just quiet kid, kind of kept to myself, didn't have too many friends or whatever. And then I started skating and kind of applied, my work ethic, or I would skate like 4 or 5 hours a day. So I got pretty good like pretty quickly, and then because of that, I was able to make friends. I mean, I think skating is like one of the best things I think for a kid to do because it really opened my world and taught me a lot of stuff like And you got to pay it in blood too. Like I remember learning like kick flips and tray flips and stuff like that, and I still have the scars on my shin bones from skating. And I feel like just that sort of discipline that it teaches you, and the sense of empowerment and accomplishment, and also the fact that it is a little dangerous, I think is actually good for kids. Like being away from parents and skating and just learning all that stuff also exposes you to a lot of bad stuff. But I don't who knows really how bad that is. A lot of drugs, all that stuff. Because maybe it takes away some of the it's just good, I think, for some young people to like experience not like actually doing drugs, but just like kind of opening your eyes to we would hang out with like way older people and stuff like that. And then I went to Columbia in New York, and so interesting experience, going there and then still hanging out with skaters. I didn't really connect with, I would say, too many people in that college. Definitely made a few really good friends, but overall I was hanging out with kids who like, I actually wrote an essay about it for Vice called it's probably still to date maybe the thing that's gotten the most views, like million. Like I still meet people who were like, I made my college decision based off that article. But it was stuff like this sounds silly now in retrospect, but it was like I remember going there and like no one knew how to like roll a blunt or like smoke. No one ever like smoked. They were like, it was like kids like drinking water and thinking it was alcohol. Just like super sheltered kids from like New York, New Jersey, or California who only ever went to private schools. Yeah, it was kind of it was for me coming from Solon, it was like a culture shock. I was like, wow, these kids really have never experienced anything. Like I just saw that girl take a shot of water and start stumbling around, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Because at that point, I kind of try to keep this on the low now, but it's like, I mean, I had done like everything in the book at that point, and I was like, that was actually when I was so, I'm gonna live a clean life from now on. So, yeah.
I would say that. So like in when I was in high school, I definitely I lived a little. I guess I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
And when I got into school, we didn't have as many sheltered kids as I could imagine in Columbia, but we had sheltered kids, and we could definitely see our homeschool kids. I'm not coming at homeschool kids either, but I'm just saying you could definitely tell there was definitely like, oh, okay, oh, you haven't done this before. Oh, you haven't blacked out before. Like what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You haven't experienced these things before, and I'm thinking this is like natural, and I don't know. I totally I definitely connect with you on that one. I definitely understand that.
I feel like going to Shaker and all that stuff. I mean, it just gives you good experience and perspective. I think that is I think really important for being a interesting person. Not that someone if they lived that life they couldn't be that at all. But yeah, it was just a culture shock at first, definitely.
It was low key the same for me. Like when I was in high school, all throughout high school, I was just sober. I was really focused on basketball, like in track. Like I was playing sports, so I didn't want to drink or to smoke or anything like that because of the fear that it would affect my performance on the court or on the field or whatever. And like I remember when I was in middle school, like 8th grade, like they used to tell me like, oh, wait till you get to high school, you're gonna be a alcoholic or a pothead or whatever. And I had a vow, like, all right, when I go to high school, I'm gonna be sober like all throughout. And I was, right? But when I got to JU, right, Jacksonville, that kind of changed. Right. Like the first party I went, like I tried my first blunt, try a little bit of alcohol. It sucked, right? I didn't know how to smoke at first, I didn't know how to drink, but later on I got adjusted, and it turns out I graduated, and like I ended up with pretty good grades, so it wasn't as bad as I initially thought it was. So
well, I feel like to play basketball in high school in any level really, past like middle school, you kind of got to be tough, and it probably teaches you a lot of other things that people don't really learn. So that's always been my impression with maybe not with track, because I did track too, we would just goof off.
Okay.
But basketball,
yeah.
It requires some level of toughness for sure. I respect that a lot.
Yeah. So then you got in. So you were always a writer. Did you go in as a writer? Did you go in as an English major? Like, was that what you studied?
No, I actually didn't. I almost failed out of college because I couldn't write academic papers.
Mm.
Because I was writing outside, like I started writing at the site called Thought Catalog, and then by my sophomore year, I was writing for like Rap Genius, which is genius.com now, which is not that big anymore, which is funny. A lot of people don't no longer recognize it, but I was like writing for Vice and stuff like that. But yeah, I was on academic probation. I shouldn't even say this, but who cares? I had really bad grades because I couldn't write academic papers because I felt like I was kind of like compromising something in my soul. Like it wasn't even something like I was like I didn't want to be like that. I just couldn't do it. I felt like I couldn't be like really like fake in that regard. And I would always mean to do it. But I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the library, I'm gonna work on my own writing, and then it's like at 1 a.m. I'll start writing the college paper, and then 1 a.m. would hit and I would have done all my own writing, and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed and wake up, and then it would just never get done. So near the end of college, I switched over to being an art student, like visual arts, not art history, but actually like screen printing and sculpture and design and photography. And yeah, I mean, and then I excelled in that and I loved it. So and then all that stuff like helped me. Like I learned more about writing in my photography class than in any other class I've ever learned. It was this guy Thomas Roma who actually got really canceled, but he was like a really great photographer, like a historic American photographer, and he'd always talk about art and you should feel embarrassed. You should feel like stupid when you show people your art because that means that's the only time that you're probably going to get something good. Stuff like that, just like lessons like that I still remember. So yeah. So I was doing all my writing outside of college.
Word. That's pretty dope. So why did your photography professor get canceled? Is there a story towards that?
Yeah, it was like during the height of the Me Too movement. I guess he had like slept with students, which he definitely shouldn't have, and it came back to bite him. I guess the students had stayed in contact with him for years afterwards, but then decided at one point that they were just going to go to the New York Times and say that he had slept with them, and I'm sure he did, but it was just all bad stuff and seems like a real bad situation. But he was a great photographer, a great artist. I mean, he's still alive, so
he's still here.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I didn't mean to make that joke. It is what it is. Okay, so outside of school, writing, how'd you get into that?
I mean, I've always been writing. I had like a little magazine for my family when I was like 11 or 12, which was really, I mean, when I go back and look, it was pretty good work for a kid. And then I was like writing in high school, like I was writing about like rap and doing still stuff that was kind of controversial or whatever for my school paper. But I started I just wanted to do it, and then I kind of just worked my way up. I started writing for this blog called The Fat Startup, which was like this like back in 2012. 2012. Like this was like the beginning of a lot of stuff that now just seems commonplace. Like people see like Silicon Valley, rappers, entrepreneurship, they all see it as the same stuff. But back then the Fat Startup was like the only people making that point. They're no longer around. They disbanded a while ago, probably 5-6 years ago. But I remember writing stuff for them about like why Gucci Mane was like actually a good business role model, and I remember writing stuff for Rap Genius about like why Kanye actually, like I remember writing something defending him when he said, you can still find forum blog posts in 2013 of people laughing at Kanye saying this idiot, this clown, this buffoon thinks he's gonna be a billionaire and I'm gonna be a billionaire too. Like what a stupid, and like you can kind of tell where that was coming from, but yeah, and I remember writing pieces defending him and defending people like Gucci Mane and just being like, no, Gucci was actually like seems like a great CEO. Kanye has like really good ideas. Like, don't doubt that he's going to be a billionaire or that he's actually going to make waves in fashion. And this is all before any of them did any of that stuff. And then kind of randomly, I transitioned to like writing about like love and dating for Thought Catalog. Like I remember my first 2 pieces for Thought Catalog. The first one was like I was like rappers who've actually killed people, and then the second one was like how to get back with the girl who broke up with you. It was just like totally abrupt switch. But then from there, I started writing for Vice, which was just like another total abrupt switch to just like journalism. And then kind of from there, the rest is history, as they say. I just started writing for Vice and just been writing ever since.
Word. So it's more on the rap side. Chrizzo, you got any questions?
Shoot, I mean, so you say you started to write in high school, right? In high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So do you have anything like released or
Yeah. Yeah. From high school.
okay?
Well, I mean, there's actually stuff online. I like wrote for like Patch, like the Solon Patch. That was like probably my first like public writing. But
Patch.
a lot of stuff is just like in print high school newspapers. But I remember it would just be stuff like, I would go try like $100 steak in Cleveland, and then I'd go try like a $1 steak in Cleveland and like compare them. Just stuff like that. I remember writing about like ASAP Rocky when he first came out, um, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, X was actually telling me about that, about your ASAP Rocky experience. Or
Yeah, I mean, I read one of your articles about ASAP. That's all I was
Oh
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, 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 yeah. I written. I was a big fan back in the day, but he I don't know what happened. He just kind of stopped releasing music. So I
yeah,
don't.
I don't know. Like, he's with Rihanna now. Like, he's I don't know.
Yeah, he
But
said he's enjoying himself. So.
So,
so
would you? Oh, sorry, my bad, Chris.
I was just gonna say are you still writing anything, or like are you still for, like from time to time?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I write pretty regularly, and I guess we can kind of talk about this maybe more like later on or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm still I'm still doing feature stuff, so all the time, pretty much.
Okay.
Word. What I was gonna say was, so you would I'd kind of put you in like the new media category, like where like media was kind of like still edgy, still like internet-ish, like that type of vibe. Like probably like early 2010s is
Yeah.
when like it was like at its peak. Would you call yourself that? Would you say that you were in that category or a little
Yeah.
after?
Yeah, I think so. I think I kind of think of it as like my first run was kind of like because all the people I was working with like older millennials and I'm like super young millennial, like arguably cusp of Gen Z. I know you guys are Zoomers, right?
Yeah.
Great generation, much better than millennials, seriously. But yeah, I mean, so I would be like 19, 20, hanging out with these like 27, 28-year olds. And then now I'm kind of doing my different work now. And then I'm sort of meeting a lot of the people that I knew then now, but in like different contexts. So yeah, I consider myself kind of like the end of the blog era. I was a very very minor character, but I think I knew a lot of people, and I did do stuff I know on Vice that had some impact on the paradigm or whatever. So
That's
So
really cool.
what was it like working for Vice, and like how long did you work for them, and when did you see like a, I wouldn't say culture shift, but like a narrative shift, or like, okay, we're gonna focus on this now, like tell me about that.
yeah, I mean, so writing for Vice in college because I was also like probably the youngest writer, one of the youngest writers ever, because I was writing for them when I was 19. And going to college at that time when Vice was like the hottest brand in the world was like a really cool experience, like to the point where like people would recognize. A few times I had gotten like recognized like on the street or when I'd be with people, or like I'd be with my girlfriend in an elevator and someone would turn around and be like, I know who you are, and I'd be like, oh, like nice, like
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, people would audibly react if you told them you wrote for Vice, especially at that age, and also because it'd be like I would go to Columbia Journalism School, and it would be like opening for like news writing at Vice, like just writing like news bits, and later on, some people got internships at Vice. They were just covering news, and I was like, bro, I'm playing chess with Jizza, going to eat out with like G, going to eat at a steak dinner with G. Like I was really doing like big stories, spending 20 hours in a strip club. They'd hand you like an envelope full of like $500 cash and just be like, all right, go to the strip club and stuff like that. And I always lied about my age too, because I remember trying to get into the Vice 20th anniversary party and I was like denied entry because I wasn't 21. I was like 19 or 20 at the time. So it was really like amazing experience, kind of intoxicating. And then Vice collapsed. So when I was in college, like I'd already started to kind of notice it around like 2016. I feel like it kind of went the way of all media. I mean, Vice just became BuzzFeed. They just suck. I was reading something recently or watching someone was like, man, Vice, not only once in a generation, once in like a civilization opportunity that they blew. Like they could have been the biggest thing ever. They could have been like
Right, yeah.
way bigger than Rolling, and then they just blew it all, and now it's just like, they're just parodies of themselves. They're like a husk of a place, and it just sucks. So I think in 2016, 2017, we kind of saw that happen to like all media, all the legacy media just sort of became, I think, really out of touch with people, and just sort of became focused on like really inane things and BuzzFeed lists and that sort of thing. So
By like 2018, or maybe well, I won't say 2018, maybe 2019, I had a communication history class, and you had to write it on something that you were interested in. I ended up writing it on like the rise and fall, because it was already essentially at the fall of like
yeah.
Vice. And it was really interesting. I didn't know like how it was kind of like, I can't think of the guy, McGavin or whatever, that like he was a punk conservative. Yeah, like he was in that, and then like they kind of switched up, but it was still punky. Like, the first time I ever experienced Vice was in middle school with he's this artist, man, and he was hitchhiking around America. And I was like, I really want to do it, but I can't think of the artist, man. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'll get back to it, but yeah, like Vice always had like something edgy, or like when I got into high school, they had like Weedicator, you know what I'm saying? Like all the like weed based like stories and all that. Like it was like, that's what I remember of Vice. Like, and that was near the end too. Like, right? Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, no, you got it exactly right. I mean, it was already to the point where like 2016, 2017, you used to be able to tell, there would like be groupies and stuff like that. Like you used to be able to tell someone that you were for Vice in like 2012, 2013, and there would literally be like an audible reaction, an audible sort of like, let me get closer to you. It was kind of weird actually. And then 2016, if I told someone I'm actually ashamed of it. I mean, I'm not ashamed of my work, but I would never like I took it off, I'm pretty sure, my like Twitter bio and stuff like that. I'm just like, because I'd written after that, in the years after, I wrote for like Rolling Stone and Playboy, and kind of had like a little thing as like a freelancer for those kind of magazines. But I was just like stopping telling people that I had written for Vice, or that I had byline there, because I think now it's just like, it's a kind of like a narc thing. Like I'm like, damn, like I don't want anyone to think I'm a Vice journalist. People are suspicious now if you tell them you're a Vice journalist. So yeah, Vice played out and they really blew it, just like all legacy media did, and it's all over for them.
Yeah, and that was one of the main things that was a downfall. I just kind of just talked about like the funding that they ended up getting, and like every time they got more eyes on it, then it was like, oh, okay, then let's like, oh, Disney's in, okay, now so-and-so's in. Now you got like all these different like corps in. Sorry.
I think it's because they used to be provocative and sort of offensive in a really kind of cool way. Just the way that, a lot of great art has to be provocative. Like I think anything you see like Kanye do, it's just provocative, and I think that they became scared to like offend people. And I think that, when you get in that zone, I don't know, it seems, and especially it's just like, I mean, their own writers are out of touch. It's all just like, like kind of like wealthy kids who just like went to, college or whatever, which a lot of people do, but I'm just saying it's just like, yeah, it's
that's something I really want to touch on. I think that would be the next thing, but I just want to shout it out. It was the David Cho thumbs up. David Cho's is like amazing artist in my opinion, and like he had this like thing called Thumbs Up, and he just would actually like hitchhike America. He had a pistol on himself.
Oh, yeah. He's dope. I actually know who that is. Yeah.
I thought back in the day, like middle school me was like geeking out watching stuff like that. Let's talk about that. We got a lot of times, a lot of journalists in a lot of different areas, like they're out of touch, but they're out of touch because like, where they grew up, honestly. So they don't understand struggle, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand the question I'm trying to put out? When did this happen? Has this always been the case? Like,
yeah. I mean, the people running media, it's like all the kids I went to college with. It's just like people who, went to like private schools and their whole life, which again, there's people who go to private schools their whole life and are, super geniuses and super interesting people. So it doesn't automatically mean that. They're just, they went to like private high schools, private colleges, like have very little experience, and I think see the world in this sort of like very simple matter of like, oh, this bad, this good, like this bad, this good. And and then a lot of my classmates, again, like not to shit on them, I respect so many of them, but a lot of them, you know, I now see who are like just so out of, like, you'd have kids who went to college with who like had like 5 different houses, you know, waited on by butlers and maids their whole lives, and then they go to like the New York
Damn.
Times now, and now they're just like, you know, writing about like social justice and stuff like that. But how could you even really write about that if you never, if that's like your whole, if your whole life you've lived in privilege, and then, you know, that's actually why I like living in Cleveland, because I feel like I'm around like reasonable people. I'm around normal people. I can be myself. You know, all my friends in New York, I think, are really repressed in terms of like it's funny. New York used to be kind of like the city of like outcasts and weirdos, and now it's like in New York, every single person I met has the same ideology about everything. Um, so that's why I like being in Cleveland. I don't know if I'm going to be here forever. I might actually move out after this year, but yeah, I just I like being in the element because a lot of people just don't have real life experience, you know?
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings it back to like the whole Soul and Shaker thing is we saw so many different aspects of it. So we had more of an understanding, more of like we're more sympathetic, I guess, to situations and different like types of situations. Like
Yeah.
one of my buddies who's like, I'm not calling him out or anything, but he's a classmate of mine at Shaker, and he's like, oh, if any of your friends are depressed, just give them money. Like put this on his Instagram. And I was like, yo. I was like, bro, I know people who got a lot of money and are depressed. I know people, there's a lot of like, where are you coming up with this? And like, he ends up going to Ivies or whatever. But I'm like, yo, I don't. Have you been out and I'm like, I gotta recognize like I've seen different aspects of life. Like maybe he never like went to that corner, he never had a friend that had struggles or anything like that, or even like had friends that had money that had struggles, like and like legitimate ones. Like he posted it, it was kind of like, yeah, well, if you're wealthy, then like you just have no struggle. Like you might if you're depressed, that it's not a real thing. It's like where are
Yeah.
we at? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like so bizarre.
Yeah, I feel like some of the most miserable people are probably the richest, but some of the most miserable people are also probably the poorest. So I feel like it kind of goes. But yeah, 100%. I totally I know what I feel what you're saying. So
Yeah. I mean, so what else? Let's talk about Count.
oh yeah, so Counter magazine, the world's best magazine. So it's an alternative magazine. I write for and kind of am, yeah, I'm involved in. We just went to Houston. This is actually, I think, maybe the first time I'm saying it. But I was just in Houston with, I don't know if you remember Samir.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Samir.
Yeah. So we went to Houston to go film a documentary on these like internet lifters on Instagram. This guy Dark Iron Gains on Instagram, who's like this really popular lifter. He's kind of started this movement. But yeah, I write for Counter. I just did another story for them. I was published on Monday about going to Roswell. Seeing a UFO, all that stuff. So highly recommend people check it out. Counter with the E at the end.com. But yeah, loving writing for them. It's yeah, yeah, that's yeah, I guess that's the beginning of it at least. Yeah.
So how would you describe it? How would you would you call it Vice? Would you call it a not really Vice, but
Vice,
how would you
vice,
explain it?
based vice.
Based Vice?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think kind of going in like because I know there's a bunch of other influences, and even in my own stuff with them, there's a lot of like different influences. Early internet stuff, Newgrounds, Homestar Runner, what else? Um, Mad Magazine, early Rolling Stone, Anarchist Cookbook. So I think I kind of consider it. There was like new media, and now there's like I don't even know if it's like I think there's already something called new media, but then counter would be like new media. So
And it brings together like humor. It brings together some craziness. It has like all those good combinations. So yeah, I mean, I definitely understand it. What's been your favorite thing to work on so far?
yeah, I did one of John McAfee's last interviews like ever. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's like yeah, I mean I think
Yeah,
he's a
yeah.
little more well known now. I did one of his last ever interviews. It was actually one of the first pieces for Counter. It's which is really cool because I had known him for a few years before that because I did a story with him. But I told him about Counter, and he was charging like $10,000 an hour for people to talk to him, and he did that one for free. And he basically said like he was never gonna that Epstein didn't kill himself. He wasn't gonna kill himself, and then he got arrested I think like 2 weeks after that. And I interviewed this dude Alexander Dugin, who I encourage people actually not to Google. I know because I say that everyone will, but he kind of get a bad rep. But he's like the advisor to Vladimir Putin, kind of founded like the Russian School of Geopolitics. So he's kind of like a world historical figure. I did that for Counter. What else? Yeah, I think those are two good ones. So yeah, I think those are probably like my two favorite. There's a lot more I'm just forgetting, but yeah.
Hey man, that's amazing. That's really a really good accomplishment, man. John McAfee, he's a very interesting character, I definitely say that. So, shout out to you. What made you want to like start Counter? Like what were you doing like right before that? Like what made you like just jump into doing your own thing? Like what gave you that motivation?
Yeah, so I didn't there's a few people who started Counter. I write for Counter, I'm involved in it, but I wish I could claim all that credit, but I can't. But what made me start writing for them was total disillusionment with media. I mean, like I don't know how familiar you guys are with this. Do you guys know like the NoFap movement?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, I mean, what do you guys have like a positive opinion, neutral, negative?
I think it's pretty positive. Yeah, I think it's pretty positive. Like the monks practice it, different priests practice it. So Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, I think it's pretty good. Sometimes people can go a little bit overboard. Like I saw this one video. It was like why I broke up with my girlfriend because of semen retention. I was like, dude, like yo, like I like it's a little bit overboard, but but I definitely support the movement for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Xavier?
In some aspects, I think is all right. I think about like even fighters. I think like Mike Tyson and stuff like that, or like boxing and stuff. And I actually do think that sometimes it's good to kind of like relax on it, buddy. Because if you're like yanking it all the time, I feel like that has some health. You're gonna need some help. You know what I'm saying? So I get it, like, but I don't get that. Like, I'm not like ragging on anybody either, but like it has such a crazy like following, like not crazy in a bad way, but like it has a big following. Like there's a whole podcast, like people will listen to like 3 hours about NoFap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like the meme aspect though too, like like NoFap November. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts?
I mean, so I remember like kind of the final straw for me was I was just trying to like pitch like semen retention and like those sorts of stories, and my editors at these like legacy media publications were like, this sounds like a white supremacist movement and it's bad and all this stuff, and I was like, what the heck? Like none of the people who I even follow who preach this stuff are white. And then I just remember thinking like, and then I remember like going and like Googling what like these magazines had already said about it, and it was like all just stuff like trying to like disprove it, telling you that like porn is healthy for you. And I remember being like, and I still, you can go on Vice right now and you'll read stuff like romance is nothing but like is as disposable as like a used condom. Just like horrible messages to the youth that are just like nihilistic, anti-God, like anti-health, like anti-life basically. And so I remember being like, wow, like I can't be a freelance writer for these publications anymore, and there needs to be a new way. And then I got in touch with the people at Counter, and they kind of brought me on board, and the rest is history.
Heck yeah, man. Because honestly, I mean, so why do you think do these attacks always work? Like, oh well, I had this idea. Well, you're a supremacist, you're a white supremacist, look at me, I'm black, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do these work? I don't know how they work. Like, intellectuals like actually like read these publications.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that people are getting more, I think more people are kind of seeing through it and just being like, huh, like we're kind of being turned against each other by all this stuff. And, it almost, I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's just like, there's like a certain way it seems like people want us to live, or these elites want us to live. And it's sort of just like scared and fear and, not really being together, not being unified. And, yeah, I think more and more people are seeing through it, but I also think in some ways it's getting worse. But I also believe anything can happen at any time. At any moment, like the storm might end completely, and then you might see the sunlight, and everything is great, and America experiences a renewal, and we all, everything starts to get really good again, and people feel like connected to their community and their neighbors and stuff like that. I think that could still happen. It's funnily enough, I have no idea how you guys might feel about this, but I think you might be on this wave is that's actually why I thought the Kanye presidential campaign was a good thing. I think that he had a message that, like, you had like the Republicans and the Democrats, and I think they're both divisive in their own ways, and then you had Kanye, who was, I think, really kind of preaching a message of true unity. And I'm not even Christian, but I like the fact that he was promoting that America's basically just God, and that's something we could all unite under. And so I'm really I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, I love that thinking. Yeah. I know that it probably isn't going to be, it's not going to really change. It'll change things in thinking, and that's why I'm glad that like he's in there for the culture, because a lot of younger kids are actually like, kind of getting to that vibe where it's not like, oh well, because there's some kids that are already going to be they're already going to be on one side or the other. They're just based off of like where they're living, and kind of like Kanye, like he transcends a lot of different like areas, and it's pretty cool. It's like it's pretty cool to witness and just like see the evolution of them, and just even like people could care about like the whole paparazzi aspect, like, oh, he's out there with so and so now, and Kim's mad and blah, blah blah blah. But like, no, like, what is he doing right now with Gap and what is he doing right now? And like even like he did a drink champs, he did 2 drink champs, and he's talking about police reform on one aspect, then he's talking about break the matrix in another one. It's so unique. It's very unique.
Yeah. Kanye's a true Midwesterner. I think I think people think he forgot where he came from, but I think that because he can sort of break through the Hollywood perception. We watch like the Oscars, and it's just like really rich Hollywood people just being like, do this, do that, America, you're bad. Kanye is like a real, I don't think he ever forgot where he came from. And I think that, being a true Midwesterner, being who he is, his mom, Donda was really taught him, I think, these real values for all, pro-humanity values. So, I think Kanye is a great representation of the best of the Midwest and the American spirit, which is also, in the worst of the American spirit, because it's like the egotism, the narcissism, and it's almost like I can't say the worst, because that's just who we are as a country. So,
yeah, I really feel like.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, like, I really feel like you said, I really feel like Kanye West really embodies like America if you just take a step back, right? Because he is an innovator. At the end of the day, he's always thinking new ways to put this together with fashion and architect and technology and everything like that. And that's kind of how America is, right? America is like the home of entrepreneurs, right? So he, in the sense that he is like a real representation of America in all aspects, right? You said ego, he does have a pretty big ego, right? But at the end of the day, he does have a really good message for sure. Like, Kanye West is one of my favorite artists of all time. Like, ever since he just started, like I've always listened to him because I could really relate to him, because I'm not no gangster or whatever, drug dealer or sibling or whatever. I relate to Kanye a lot more because I see myself in him, and one quote that he really says that really stuck with me is, if you're a fan of me, you're not a fan of me, you're a fan of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me was like, whoa, like, because like the type of message that he puts out there is not for necessarily him, but for other people as well. So, I really like Kanye, especially those interviews that he had with Drink Champs. Both part one and part two was really like eye opening. It really showed how intelligent he really is and how like multi dimensional in his thinking. You know, same the interview he had with Joe Rogan. I think that was a really amazing interview that he had as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think one of my favorite ones from favorite quotes from the Drink Champs interview was when he said he was a GTA character. Like that was kind of like the best way to describe. Like he's like, yeah, I'm a GTA character, and I'm like rich as hell, you know, and like I'm one of the richest characters. And it was like, yeah, okay, like I get that aspect. So no, I definitely vibe with Kanye, and I definitely hope that that just puts a shift on like this whole like on our whole like culture. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying necessarily like Kanye is the answer. I'm saying like we got to have some different type of thinking, and like just hey, if you vibe with architecture like I do, then vibe with architecture. If you vibe with these different types of mediums and stuff like that, don't be afraid to go do it, even if you look crazy. You know what I'm saying? Even if people are gonna paint you. That's another thing about Kanye. Kanye don't give two F's. He don't give a rat's ass,
Yeah, we need people like that. Everyone's so scared to move the needle and say things that are scary to people. And I just think all the best ideas are going to be dangerous because they're dangerous to the status quo. And I think that he's really someone who challenges the status quo and always has. Like we don't need to get too into it, but I'm been volunteering. I've been helping kids actually like recently. With like hip hop stuff. Like I've been teaching kids how to use like Photoshop and like record and stuff like that in Cleveland. Use Photoshop, video editing, design, and then helping them like write music and stuff. And it's really inspiring for me to see high school kids. Their favorite artist is Kanye, and I'm just like, man, if you got like my if some woman I know is like much older, 20 years older than me, and her favorite artist is Kanye because he inspires her to be an entrepreneur. And then I see 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids who are who they are starting to see kind of the way the media works and how it divides people. And then Kanye inspires them to be themselves, to be okay with them being themselves. I'm like, man, you can't, how could you hate on what this man is doing? Because he's literally inspiring youth. So
what do you think about this? Do you think meme culture helps, break this whole kind of like this whole like media, this government, all these different like institutions? Like does meme culture like fight this in some way?
I think so, 100%. And that's kind of what this project with this guy Dark Iron Gaines is about. And just like memes in general. I mean, people get radicalized in all types of ways. You could become a communist just from reading memes all day. You could literally become probably like a white nationalist from just reading memes. Like memes, I think were responsible for probably what happened in the 2016 election. I think memes are I think memes have a lot of influence because people don't really read books or news anymore. People just like read Instagram. So I try to follow like a really diverse amount of accounts, like from just kind of all different thoughts, like. And I enjoy the memes. So yeah, I think meme culture is huge because it's something anyone can do. Not everyone can go immediately be like make movies or even sometimes make music, but anyone can make a meme. So
I agree. I definitely agree. Like in a world that's full of like PC, very serious, like, oh, we're gonna cancel if you do this, and very like not lighthearted. I feel like memes really give like like kind of like David Chappelle, like he's very like stop being so goddamn serious all the time, like he's very like he brings light to certain situations, and that's what things are supposed to be, man. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're for transgender or you're not or whatever. Like if we can all sit down and laugh at each other too. Like people don't have humility anymore, right? Like you have to learn to make fun of yourself, like you have to learn to like take in, like if somebody says something, it's a joke, and that's how you move society forward, is pointing out certain things and making light of that, so
yeah, man, 100%. I think that's really I think we're kind of breaking through that, but sometimes I worry if we really are or not. Like maybe on the underground level we are, like a lot more people are doing it underground, but the messages I see coming from the government, media, I don't know, man. It sometimes, I don't know if it's getting better or worse, but I think there's definitely hope. And I think that because of, new generation coming up and all that stuff, I think there is a lot of hope. I think the millennials, especially the older millennials, like really were real low. So
I agree. Yeah, like even like on YouTube, right, for an example, they had to remove the dislikes, because people
yeah.
were really like disliking videos on like whatever it is, either
Whatever.
vaccines or
Yeah, I read that it
whatever.
was because of that. Like, yeah, everything
Yeah.
that they put out about like vaccine, they were like Fauci, it would be so many dislikes, and they removed it because of that, which is
Just because
crazy.
of his it was because of his Disney Plus. He had a Disney Plus documentary,
Oh my gosh.
He
and it
did?
was it was so cringe. Like that's another thing. That's a whole nother podcast. Is like
Yeah.
how are we like we're really making people into these like celebrities, but why are they celebrities when they should be like being held accountable for their actions if they if they're I don't know. That's a whole nother avenue.
I shouldn't say this because my building, like, I don't want anyone to hear me, but because that's the world we live in, whatever. But there's like a sign that says something like "Don't f with Fauci," and it has like him as like a Roman god or whatever. And I was like, dude. And then it's so funny because I love this building, like I really do, because it's like environmental, it's all that stuff. But the people in this building, like no one even like says hi to each other. They're all like, whatever. I'm just like, man, like what the heck? I was just everywhere else in the country, everywhere else I've been, everyone's so friendly, and then I go to this like Fauci building, and like it's like the weirdest.
Fauci building.
Yeah, it's just everyone's like super cold. But I obviously I love where I live. I'm just saying it's like the people. I don't know, man. Something's going on.
No, no, I definitely understand it. That's how like polarized we're getting right now. You can't even joke about it. Like I've joked about it once, and it was like I was in this room and everybody looking at me, and I'm like, yo, whoa, 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 yo, hey, hold it back. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about this. So this would be like the last thing, honestly. I think it's super cool that you're, working with like younger kids and trying to like hone in some of these like these things that can really empower them themselves, and they can really do a lot of cool things. So, like, can you give us an example of like of how this like program looks? Is it a
Yeah.
official program or is it
Yeah, yeah. It's and it's a nonprofit. I guess I just don't want to because yeah, it's a nonprofit though, and I'll keep them anonymous for now. But I'm like one of my students. He's a senior in high school. I know he's been through some things or whatever because I read his college essay and kind of helped him with it and just some crazy stuff. But he's an artist and. He didn't even know how to use Photoshop like a few months ago, and I taught him how to use Photoshop. And then he like showed me this like digital collage he made, which was like so cool. And after like a few months of just doing it on his own, and I think with him, maybe it's kind of like, and this is probably actually a great note to end on, is it kind of goes back to even like the LEAP program, is that I wanted to be for him the person who really encouraged him, like not only to teach Photoshop, which he did, which like learn the technical skills, which is the hard skills, which is important. But I try to tell him, and I think he really believes this now because I see the change in him, and it's not just me. I mean, this is just I'm just like a tiny, tiny part of this, just the overall program and the people he's around. But in his college essay, he was writing like, "I will be a great artist. I will work in the music industry." And I think because I've had some experiences in the music industry, I was trying to tell him, like you can. I didn't believe in myself when I was your age, and then I started to. There's a girl in there that she wants to be a coroner, like one of those people that dissects bodies. And she tells me that everyone from her family to her friends, they all say that's so weird for a girl to want to be a coroner.
right?
You're weird. I think I might have been one of the first people to ever say that's cool for you to want to be a coroner. I think being a female coroner, that's cool. And then we sat down, we found a local female coroner in the other county. We wrote an email to her. So that's really like what I think I'm trying to do, and is really get these kids to like really really believe in themselves, not like false belief or not like just to realize that it is a lot of it is mental and that they can really if they work hard and they act right, think right, stay on the right path, all that stuff. There are so many they can accomplish their dreams, or they can get it's like shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll be among the stars. So yeah,
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, yo, you having them grab the stars. They're reaching for stars.
Yeah. So I'm that's what make I'm real proud of that. So
pretty dope, Zach. Chrizzo, you got any last questions?
What are your thoughts on the metaverse?
Oh man, I think bad news, man. Bad news. It seems like probably that's where we're headed as a species. Is just like we had like the industrial revolution, and now we're sort of going into like full on digital revolution, NFTs, crypto, all that stuff. But I don't know, man. It just especially if like Zuckerberg and Meta or whatever are running it, that is bad news. I think we get it some other way, but one could even argue that the Industrial Revolution has been a disaster for humankind. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, that was like this famous first sentence in his book. One could even go back to say the Agricultural Revolution, subsistence crops, it's the reason why like our teeth are bad, it like messed up, humans' health. It's like why Aborigines have good teeth. This is a total tangent.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like it just seems like, if the metaverse, people will get like more unhealthy, mentally just insane, dopamine, addicted to dopamine. I don't really know if we're like becoming better people. I think that, when I look at like scholars and artists and writers of the past, they were like way more prolific than like any artist nowadays. So who knows? Maybe good and bad. I mean, if we'll adapt, whatever. But if it's run by Zuckerberg, man, I think that thing needs to be like burned down.
I think we would turn into a Wall-E generation where all those guys are in the freaking spaceship on the freaking wobble machines, only looking at the screen. That's what I think about all the time. Of like, wow, we're getting closer and closer to that. Well, Zach, if you want to plug anything, I give you your minutes to plug. If you got any last messages, if you want to give your message to anybody, this is your chance.
Yeah. I mean, so follow at Counterculture. It's just counter with an E at the end, and then culture. It's pretty much on all platforms. You guys should drop your handles, because everyone should follow you guys too. So
without a doubt, it's X and it's in 2024.
And my Instagram, Chris Raldez, YouTube, Chrizzo, Spotify, Chrizzo, all that good stuff.
All right. Got some music. I'll check it out.
What's Out Media Group. Thank you, Zach, for the time. I appreciate it.
Great talking.
Peace out.